Hello, I'm Moira Dunworth. I'm proud to be a founder member of the Mamie Martin Fund, and currently my role is admin and marketing.
Hi, my name is Nasim Vadalia. I am a very proud member of the Mamie Martin Fund and I am a trustee.
So the Mamie Martin Fund was established by the family of Mamie Martin. Mamie worked with her husband, her missionary husband in Malawi 100 years ago, and she noted the inequalities of educational opportunities for girls. It's sadly astonishing that that inequality still exists in Malawi and in other parts of the world.
So one of the things that MMF does is to keep the girls in school in Malawi. So just as you've heard from Moira, that one of the challenges is that early marriages, and this often happens when they're in middle high school, which is Form 2. They have grown, they're now young, looking like young women. So there's a challenge of most of them leaving school, going to marry or going to be mothers in their homes. So we try to make sure that we keep the girls in school, just making sure that their provisions are available. So to make sure that they get the proper uniforms that they need, to make sure that they have all the supplies that they need to stay in school, which is books. For the ones that are in boarding schools, which is making sure they have the right groceries that they need, like soap. I know it could sound a bit weird or odd for soap to be a major thing, but for a rural village kind of girl in Malawi, it's very hard to get their hands on soap because of the parents that lacking in funds and in so many ways. And another important thing that the girls need is sanitary wear.
So Nasim, where do we get the sanitary products from?
So as of now, we support local business. So we get it from a lady in Malawi.
Okay.
Yes, which is, I think, the most ideal thing to do as we're supporting the girls as well.
That's right. And of course, they're reusable, aren't they?
These exactly, yes.
Sanitary packs. Yes.
Which is also good for the climate. Yes, so which they can even use while they're home, because over the holidays they're home and they reuse them, they come back to school and it's still as good as new.
Yes, good. And what other kind of things do they need in school that we would assume that a child would have?
Small things like a school bag. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sometimes you think a school bag is like a basic thing, but they need it. So they need the school bags, they need the books.
So you're talking about a level of poverty that we here in Scotland have difficulty getting our heads around.
Exactly. Yeah. So those things that most of, we take them for granted, I would say, but back there it would go an extra mile. So even if someone supports with a pen, they're helping a girl stay in school. So with the knowledge of Malawi, like what we were just saying, I would say we also pray for the supporters of MMF, just praying for them, that God should just continue providing for them and to give them that heart of giving, because with the girls, as much as they get the funding, but their appreciation will be different from how God sees what they're doing.
One of the things, when the first time that Mercy visited outside of Malawi, came to Scotland, and she was astonished, and I've heard her repeat this in Malawi, at how it is not the rich people who are giving money. She said, these people are not rich, I've heard her speak. She said, these people are a lot of older people and they don't have a lot of money, but they're very generous with that money. And I know that was a very powerful thing that she learned. And so I think that asking for prayers for our supporters is a really good one.
Yes.
And I would add another prayer point, which is to pray for our schoolgirls having the courage to stick with the education.
Yes.
Because while we provide the financial support that's needed and we can provide all the pens and sanitary wear we like, but sometimes they're under a lot of pressure. Sometimes they're very worried about things at home.
Yes, that's true.
And one girl just now, her grandfather has died, and it was the grandfather who has brought her up, because as so many children in Malawi are brought up by grandparents, particularly because of the AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
And so the grandfather died, and that can be so unsettling. As it happens, we put funding into allowing her to go home for the funeral so that she would be more settled. She's one of the brighter girls at one of our schools. But that kind of thing at a teenage years can be very hard on the girls. So we would pray, we would ask for prayers for their courage, to hang on in there and against all the social expectations to believe in their education. Because when we educate the girls, we educate their future families.
That's very true.
Educated women will educate their own children, and they will also get more involved. The children will be healthier. They will take the children for checkups and vaccinations.
That's very true.
There's some very good data by UNICEF on those kinds of outcomes of education. So we educate a girl, we actually educate the whole nation.
The whole nation, yeah.